incremental a partir dos últimos anos com o Programa Nacional do Álcool. Houve uma grande evolução tecnológica, os motores evoluíram, a tecnologia de produção agrícola e industrial evoluiu, e hoje nós estamos produzindo de 7 mil a 8 mil litros de combustível por hectare, com uma eficiência bastante alta. E os motores são os motores melhores que tem no mundo para usar biocombustível, são motores flexíveis. Isso é produzido em mais de 300 unidades produtoras, que abastecem 35 mil postos em todo o Brasil e suprem combustível para uma frota de 30 milhões de automóveis. É um dos maiores programas de energia alternativa do mundo, sem sombra de dúvida.
Biofuels are part of our daily lives, and Brazilian ethanol, distilled from sugarcane, is already a fact. With impressive agricultural productivity rates and low production costs, usable energy ratings are high, with minor impacts on global food markets.
Que o etanol combustível seja sustentável. Para isso, ele tem que ser, primeiro, competitivo economicamente. Tem que ter um custo de produção que seja, pelo menos, comparável ou inferior ao custo dos combustíveis convencionais. E isso o etanol de cana-de-açúcar consegue ser. Segundo aspecto da sustentabilidade é a questão social. O etanol gera empregos e gera renda. Ele, nesse sentido, é também combustível sustentável. E no aspecto ambiental, que é tão importante quanto os outros, o etanol é certamente um dos mais sustentáveis combustíveis que nós temos. Ele usa terra, mas em pequena quantidade. Ele não provoca processos erosivos, ele pode ser produzido em condições que se mantenha a biodiversidade, com baixo uso de agroquímicos e baixo uso de água. Certamente é uma opção ambientalmente bastante aceitável e que pode ser introduzida em níveis importantes na matriz energética mundial.
Thanks to the success of ethanol, Brazil has lessened its dependence on oil, while also reducing air pollution levels. Backed by years of experience, Brazil is heading up research into innovative technologies, such as the development of new sugarcane varieties that will boost this productivity even more, giving this sector a keener competitive edge. The world is being swept up in an energy revolution that is booming right here in the hands and minds of the Brazilian people.
Esse momento em que a sociedade moderna necessita de segurança de suprimento energético, reduzir as emissões de gases que causam mudança climática, nós temos uma alternativa consistente, competitiva, sustentável, que é produzir bioetanol de cana-de-açúcar, como estamos fazendo no Brasil. A constituição do mercado internacional de etanol, a partir da cana-de-açúcar, onde países produtores com alta eficiência e os países consumidores com seus mercados que necessitam desse combustível, oferece uma alternativa com vantagens para todos. É assim na América Latina, diversos países, é assim em diversos países da África, que podem vir a produzir biocombustível para seu uso e para o uso de outros países do mundo, sem afetar a produção de alimentos, porque é sustentável e porque gasta pouca área. Ou seja, o bioetanol de cana-de-açúcar é uma alternativa consistente para a mudança de uma sociedade baseada em combustíveis fósseis para uma sociedade baseada em energia solar, com benefícios para os países consumidores, para os países que usam essa energia. Esse é o momento de transição.
Deeply involved in these changes, the Brazilian Development Bank has financed several biofuel production projects. Funding allocated to the sugar and alcohol sector has increased significantly over the past few years, totaling more than $2.4 billion in 2008 alone. To learn more about bioethanol distilled from sugarcane, read Bioethanol, Energy and Sustainable Development, a publication launched by the Brazilian Development Bank. This growth and development of Brazil and the world.
Muito obrigado, Carlos, pela palestra esclarecedora. É muito animador vermos o aumento de recursos que o BNDES tem acreditado, né, tem feito no setor, e também esse esforço que tem sido feito da sociedade geral, das empresas, do governo, para a internacionalização dessa ideia de combustíveis renováveis de uma forma sustentável. Não é? Bom, eu gostaria agora de chamar a senhora Laila Preston, que é diretora da Generation Investment, cujo chairman é o Al Gore, Sr. Al Gore. Ela é formada em inglês e estudos latino-americanos pela Universidade de Stanford e MBA pela London Business School. Trabalhou na American Express, Bridges Community Ventures e Volunteer Match, em São Francisco. Na Generation, desde 2004, ela está envolvida na área de soluções climáticas. Por favor.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction, and to the conference organizers and the folks at Unica for having me here today to address this audience. I have two challenges today as I see them up front. And the first is to say something new and unique on day 3 of a very in-depth conference. And what I'll attempt to bring in this presentation is a perspective from an international investment group looking in on this industry. And then second, given the fact that I'm a native New Yorker, to speak slowly enough so that everyone in the room can understand. So I'll attempt to achieve that as well. In my presentation today, I'm going to cover two elements. First, an introduction to Generation Investment Management and our investment philosophy, and then more of a focus on the discussion of what we're looking for as investors when we approach the biofuels area, and in particular, looking at Brazil. So an introduction to Generation, who we are. The firm was founded 5 years ago. By two people, one being former Vice President Al Gore, and the other being David Blood, who was formerly the Chief Executive at Goldman Sachs Asset Management. And there's a quintessential joke that at the beginning they thought it would be a good idea to name the firm Blood and Gore, but they opted for a more sustainable option and went for the name Generation. But essentially at the onset, they wanted to build an asset management platform that was unique and founded on 3 principles, the first being long-term investment. And given that we want to invest over the long term, it is only common sense to take into account the relevant and material sustainability factors that affect decision making. And then finally, a sense of alignment with our clients. So Generation is actually unique in that we are rewarded on a 3-year rolling basis for performance fees, for example, and that helps us to look further out than a lot of industry peers that are rewarded on a short-term, quarterly, or annual basis. At the firm today, there are about 36 people, of whom 16 are on the investment team, including myself. It's very much an integrated team, given that they wanted to bring together people with distinct capabilities, both in financial analysis, but also in sustainability research. So about 2/3 of our team are folks who come from the buy side or from investment banks such as Goldman Sachs, and another 1/3 of our team members come from non-traditional backgrounds, including environmental economists and sustainability experts. We run 2 strategies to date. One is a global equity fund, which is a very concentrated portfolio of about 40 or so listed public companies, mostly mid to large cap. And the second, which is what I'm going to focus on today, is called our Climate Solutions Fund. And here we cover a certain subsector of both renewable energies and related technologies and business models. Just to give you a sense of where we are currently invested today in Brazil, in our public equity fund, we cover companies listed here. We have not yet to date in the private equity fund deployed capital here, and that's part of the reason why we've wanted to participate in this conference and also spend some extended time in our private equity research here. Before I move on, I wanted to highlight an approach that we have incorporated into our research, and this has to do with systems thinking. So it's based on the concept that you can't look at any sustainability issue in isolation, and that it's essential to look at them in a holistic manner. So I always think of climate change as a quintessential example, because you can't understand climate change without understanding the implications for water scarcity, without understanding the implications of demographics as a result of rising sea levels, for example, and the displacement of what we'll call climate refugees over the very long term. And you also can't understand the impact of things such as pandemics and poverty. So it's necessary to take these factors into consideration as a whole, and that actually is a perspective that we bring to the whole biofuels and bioenergy sector. So if we think about the Climate Solutions Fund, this is an investment vehicle that was closed last April. We raised around $700 million, and the purpose here is to invest both in late-stage private equity investment as well as illiquid public. So in a way, it was structured as a crossover fund where we can be more agnostic as to the technical private or public classification, and more focused on the stage of a company's development. With respect to the fund, what we're looking for are to place capital to the amount of, say, 10 to 30 million US dollars in a position. To date, we have 3 private transactions and a handful of others that are in the public in the public arena, and these are ranging from the renewable energy supply through to demand efficiency, not deficiency, and including the carbon market, looking at the infrastructure that will be needed in building out a robust and transparent carbon market, and particular to the conference here, a consideration of the biomass economy. And this is a research area that I lead along with a colleague, and here we focus in on 4 key areas. The first is a placeholder for what we call lowest cost, most sustainable biofuels / plastics / chemicals platform. And we have to date identified Brazil as certainly the lowest cost, most sustainable, non-petroleum based platform, and that's why we spend significant time down here. The second is a placeholder for what could come through second generation, through cellulosic developments. We think to date there's not necessarily an appropriate way for us to be involved at the stage that we're looking to be involved, but we would hope to in the future. We also look at biomass for stationary power applications, either combined with a fuels platform or standalone, and here I look at waste to energy. And then forestry and land use change, as well as what we'll call adjacencies, or think of it as picks and shovels for the development of robust and high growth biofuels and bioenergy markets. So focusing in now on the biofuels space for a moment, I wanted to highlight some of our core assumptions that really underpin our investment in the space. And first is that long-term oil prices are going up, something that if you were in the presentation by Kjell Eklett from Sweden, he made a very compelling case for. Secondly, that there will be long-term policy support for biofuels because of a combination of lower greenhouse gas emissions, energy independence, and diversification. However, we recognize that policy may be irrational in the short term. Thirdly, that companies in the bioenergy space are commodity industries. So expecting that you'll achieve superior returns above cost of capital for a long period of time is misplaced.